Okay, welcome back to members of 121 Community Church in Grapevine, Texas, and our ongoing study in First Sons and Last Daughters by Reine. We're going to look at pages 254 to 269, and this is a very key lesson because we get a chance to really look at the title lesson. This is the lesson that defines the title of the book. Let's go to block 1, and we'll begin with Peyton's syllogism of mending. Peyton's phone call with Adler and the abstract promise of mending. Adler tells Peyton that he and Gideon will camp along the Colorado border, and he will try to talk to his son. He also tells Peyton that he will make up his absence when he gets back. They both exchange confessions of love for each other, and Peyton tells Adler she'll be busy in Carmel working on the Mrs. Valesco project, so she'll stay busy. But 2, the concrete project of mending in a new canvas. Peyton contemplated her project for Mrs. Valesco of painting in the spirit. Remember, she has to paint in the spirit, not by the mind only. Peyton wondered if it could possibly put things right again. But first, she has already been sketching possible sign-like possibilities for the painting. She's already been thinking of it. She's already been doing some sketching. But now it's time for a demonstration at Garant's gallery. Peyton was scheduled to demonstrate her painting style for a large crowd at the gallery. And again, it's a kind of a metaphor for her own evolving new identity. She gets a pretty good crowd to show up, and what she's going to do is paint upside down, and the audience would have to estimate the resultant subject, and she would paint 2 canvases, a narrow canvas because the pathway is narrow to this reformed life, and a mystery portrait of someone in the audience, and she's going to give that as a gift to the person she chooses. So she's going to give that as a gift. So I love the idea. I love the metaphor. She's painting. Basically, both of these paintings refer to her own evolving new self-identity, this narrow path. But her life is upside down right now. So the demonstration is going to begin with she's going to paint upside down canvases, and the audience has to guess what she's painting. Let's go to block 2. The pathway to truth is narrow. The spark. Peyton finished her demonstration painting the portrait of, I love this, she painted a portrait of an elderly woman, and then she gifted the painting to her. And this woman got all excited to receive this gift, and Peyton said to herself that she loved making someone else spark with joy and appreciation. So I love that. This new identity, it's going to be a gift of grace. It's going to be a gift. But I love this demonstration where she gives away the painting. Of course, Garant wanted it to be sold, but she says, no, I'm giving it away. So I love that gifting on her part. Next would come her Mrs. Valesco commission. So next she takes the tour and she examines the new architecture of the self. She tours Atalaya, and it's nicknamed Lookout Tower. What would Peyton see of herself in this place? With this project came great responsibility because the work had to be done in the spirit. Mrs. Valesco was very, very adamant. I don't want this to be just a carefree project. I want something with depth of spirit to it. So the spark of light on her narrow path and the self-reflective view must become concrete. But how? How is this going to become concrete? Her painting was supposed to go into the foyer, and it had to be large, or very large, not what she normally does, but large enough to cover 1/2 of the wall space. It's going to be huge. It would require a mining, I love this line here, it would require a mining of the inner self for rare spiritual resources. I love that line. She's going to have to dig deep within her inner spiritual self to do justice to this commissioned painting. She needed larger wings to metaphorically step off the lookout point cliff for this new spiritual venture. So I love that. I love that metaphor. Of course, I've loved everything about this commission she has for Mrs. Valesco. I think she's a great character that Reine has developed here. I love this character. But the real gift of this section of the novel is block 3. I was blown away. Finding the self as a created new self is always a gift of grace. We had a hint of that in block 2. And first, we look at new life in itself. Peyton has accepted the new life plan for herself, even though it's not yet concrete. It would require the positing of real work and vigor, and it would also include a return moment of recognition that would have to be recognized by another as truly being what she desired to portray. Emotional and very deeply contemplative, Peyton commits to the risk of faith in taking on this Mrs. Valesco commission. But next, she's got to make that vision concrete. Now we have positing. It initially takes place toward Bryce, her daughter. Bryce arrives after Peyton has finished dinner. Peyton is excited to show her daughter that the personal spiritual project for Mrs. Valesco. And right now it exists as a chalk sketch. I love this. She does a sketch first. So she has a chalk sketch. It has not been started in oil yet, but she wants to show her daughter the sketch of a new life. Bryce, as a truly loving daughter, immediately responds in recognition. I love this. They have a great connection. She immediately responds in recognition. And that is really, really important. So third, block 3.3, the moment of recognition by another. Bryce declares, that's a Bixby Bridge with 5 persons kind of disguised as columns under the bridge, right? And the 5 characters are Hanovi, Bryce, William, Ricky, and Gideon. And Peyton explains, Hanovi is in the center, bearing most of the weight. Then in Peyton's return moment of awareness, she responds, you children are the priceless treasure that bridge my divided life. You have to love this line. I mean, I really do. I love this line. You children are the priceless treasure that bridge my divided life. Bryce tears up and breaks down emotionally. I can understand that. But that's going to be the painting she's going to do for the mansion of Mrs. Valesco's mansion that will be toured. It will be a tourist attraction, and so the art will be really on display in a gallery type manner. And Bryce recognizes that her mother has truly sketched a beautiful spiritual work of art, a fine art, spiritually deep work of art. And she loves it, absolutely loves it. And it's a tremendous testimony of Peyton's love for her children. So it is the painting that will reflect the title of the book, First Sons and Last Daughters. The first sons and last daughters hold up the bridge that bridge the divided life of Peyton. They bridge those gaps. So I think it's very powerful, but we close out with that the desire for a newly defined life within Peyton herself. She's accepted the challenge, so internally she's already started thinking of it. She's already started kind of putting it together in her mind. She's kind of got a abstract idea of what she's going to do. So it just exists initially in her inner self. But it has to become concrete. It has to become a concrete work of art. And the first example, and when she makes it a concrete work of art, she's doing so that it might be appreciated and recognized as spiritually significant by another person. And the first person she tries it out on is her daughter, Bryce. And so, block 3, note 2, we've got Peyton going out of herself by presenting this spiritual project to her daughter. And it's a bridge held up by her children. And so what you desire as a human being that's trying to posit the truth, as a human being who's trying to present the deepest spiritual truth, is what you desire is recognition. You want it to be recognized. You want it to be recognized and someone say, yes, this is the truth. I can see this. I can, I can be floored. I can understand Rembrandt's painting of St. Peter in prison. I get it. I see what he's done here. Recognition is participation. So what Peyton desires is that this painting will be recognized, appreciated, and participated in. And the first test is Bryce, her daughter. And her daughter does not disappoint. We have 3:3, the recognition. She immediately says, that's Bixby Bridge. And it's being held up by your children, persons, kind of disguised as columns. And there's enough detail, just enough detail, where she can say, hey, I recognize Hanobi. Then Bryce herself, William, Ricky, and Gideon. And they're recognizable, but they're also kind of hidden as these columns under the bridge. Very, very powerful, powerful painting. But if you notice, we have 3 very significant spiritual moments. First, it's the inward contemplative moment where Peyton kind of works through what she wants to do within her inner spiritual self. She commits to it. She kind of gets some ideas about how it's going to develop. But then that abstract idea, the first step is just really an abstract idea. But then that abstract idea has to become a concrete sketch and concrete oil eventually on canvas. And so step 2 has to be that step of going outside the self and making this idea into something concrete. And she does that initially. The way she likes to work is to first do a chalk sketch. And then, what do you desire? You desire for your work to be recognized. You desire for your work to be participated in and to be truly identified as spiritual truth, spiritual wonder, and something that will really grasp the viewer and pull the viewer in as a participant. That is what fine art is supposed to do. Fine art, if you take a look at Rembrandt's St. Peter in Prison, oh man, that's just so powerful. I mean, I get so many compliments on that. I've got a copy of it here, but people look at that and they just go, wow. I go, yeah, that's Rembrandt. That's Rembrandt. But you're just drawn into it. You are just drawn into that painting of St. Peter in prison, and it's very, very powerful. It's probably my favorite painting from the great masters. I like Rembrandt anyway, but that's what we're talking about here. Peyton is trying to do the same kind of thing. She wants to create a deeply spiritual, deeply meaningful painting, and she has, first of all, the abstract idea. She's worked it around in her heart. She's worked it around in her mind. But it has to go outside the self and become a chalk sketch and then a oil on canvas. And in doing so, it becomes that which is given to the world, posited for the world, in hopes that it will gain recognition as the true, recognition as the spiritual truth, recognition as spiritual wonder, recognition as existential transcendence. All of that is what you hope for. You hope for that in any kind of art. A novel, just like Reine, she's hoping for us to participate in this novel. My poetry, I hope that people will participate in my poetry, but that's what art tries to do, to grasp the reader or viewer and to actually draw them into participation. And so the first test was Bryce, Peyton's daughter, and she recognizes this is her mother's heart. It is her mother's spirit. So that's going to wrap up 254 to 269. Now our next lesson, you already know, we're rotating back and forth. So our next lesson is going to be in Hegel again. We go Hegel, then Reine, Hegel, then Reine. So next lesson will be in Hegel. And that's going to wrap up 254 to 269.